Welcome to another season of Coop Dreams. After 8 years, we've still got the farmhouse, plenty of land around the farmhouse, and a host of farm animals. Chickens, turkeys, rabbits, goats, cows, bees, and one very loud guinea. We also have a cat, William Wallace. He's our farm manager, and he also oversees security. So keep joining us, laughing and learning, right here on Coop Dreams.
Last time on Coop Dreams.
After another successful Coops for Troops presentation in North Carolina, we headed to Swope, Virginia to meet up with Joel Salatin and take a tour of his 550-acre organic farming operation that fully integrates rotational grazing of livestock and chickens to keep the animals, grass, and soil healthy. And I wanted to find out the hows and whys of this growing farming mindset. During our guided tour by Joel, he often spoke highly of his parents, who clearly had an impact on his knowledge and agricultural outlook.
And you know, when you're a kid, 6 or 7, and you know your hero dad gets giddy about something, that's a kind of a big deal, you know. And I just remember him being giddy about the idea of mobile infrastructure.
His mobile chicken coops were impressive and quite efficient. He showed us how to move one using his brother's design dolly.
All right, so we'll move a shelter here. In fact, we can move a couple. So the tool is this dolly. My engineer brother designed it. So you know, when we first did this, we didn't have a dolly. It took 2 people to move it. So you just come up here, stick your end under there. Now you're on wheels.
Get out.
So then you go up here, it just rolls and the birds just walk.
And they never get crushed in the back. I won't have nearly as many mobile shelters or chickens to worry about this kind of efficiency, but I also wanted to be sure that I wouldn't run over any of my chickens.
You asked about why don't you run them over, so if you'll notice, one of the things we do, we always run them east, because we're moving them in the morning. Chickens are attracted to sun. They're attracted to light. If you move them the other way, you're trying to force them to go into the shadows, and they don't want to move. That's when you run over them. But by moving them always with the shadow behind them where they're drawn to the light, they come on up and move real easily.
Unreal.
So
did you learn that from?
No, we learned that from one of our apprentices.
For his size of operation, each coop has 75 chickens that could be moved in less than 60 seconds, allowing one person to move 60 coops or 4,500 birds in about an hour.
And we've done everything from 90 down to 50. We've experimented with different levels of birds, and we've settled on 75. If you put in 90, it's a little too many. If you put in 50, it's too few to stay warm in the spring when it's chilly, and it's too and they actually run off so much they don't gain as well. So they almost get too much exercise. And so
there's no roosts in here, is it? I mean,
no.
It's just all.
No, they just sleep on the ground. They're fine. They sleep on the ground.
And the food that you feed, I'm assuming no medicated feed.
No. It's all GMO free local. GMO free local.
Like Joel, we also use a non-GMO feed for our chickens, which is supplied by Grubbly Farms. Now, what about for me? Our cows are we don't move. We don't have movable fencing for our cows. We've got them in a pasture.
You will when you finish today.
Yeah.
We're gonna fix that.
All right.
We're gonna fix that.
I'm ready to learn. But let's say I can't cross that line. Putting one of these in that cow pasture, does that help that pasture regenerate?
I mean, this is like painting your pasture with a green paintbrush. Oh yeah, you can't get better fertilizer than this. Okay. Which is one reason why we only touch a square foot one day a year. It gets one day, and we won't come back to this for a year. because they're putting at this level. That's another reason for the 75 in a shelter. At this density, they're putting down roughly 200 units of nitrogen per acre.
So every day you move them one unit, and they won't come back to that place
for a year.
It'll be different ones at that point.
Now, cows will come through, the egg mobile will come through, turkeys could come through, sheep, but not these
And that's just the
juvenile
nitrogen
broilers.
and the impact that they have on the soil.
Yeah, because if you're overloading the soil with nitrogen, it doesn't actually matter whether it's organic, inorganic, or otherwise. If there's too much, it's going to go into groundwater, or it's going to vaporize. It's going to do something, and so we don't want to make a toxic issue here, and we want to cover as much acreage as possible.
Right. And then moving, they get fresh bugs, fresh grass,
fresh grass every day.
You don't worry about them walking through and eating poop and any of that bacteria.
Nope.
That's incredible.
Remember, I mean, these birds are coming out before they're 3 weeks old. And so, these 75 birds, they can fit in a circle, about like yay, and then they gradually, grow and fill up.
We moved up on the hill to an area his cows were grazing for the day. They got moved to a new area of fresh grass each and every day. In here, the area that's next, which is just beyond there, this looked like that yesterday.
That's correct.
They knocked all this down.
That's correct.
And you didn't have to feed.
Nope.
And they got shade. I've heard for a few years now that rotational or regenerative grazing was beneficial for the animals and the soil, but I didn't have a complete picture as to why. Joel explained the impact on grass growth much more clearly.
But this plant has a problem. It doesn't live forever. It goes through a growth cycle. It starts slow down here, and then it grows real fast, and then it slows off down here towards senescence. I call this diaper grass, teenage grass, nursing home grass. Okay, so if we want the grass to be as carbon sequestering, biomass generating as possible, of these 3 stages, where do we want it as much time as possible? Teenage. Yeah, I don't do trick questions. This by forestalling the grazing until the forage is always up to this kind of senescent stage, we allow it to go through this very rapid growth accumulation phase, which doubles and triples the actual amount of biomass that you're producing per acre, and therefore the carrying capacity. So right here's where they grazed it to. See that flayed end? So in 3 days, this has grown this much. If they were in here, they would eat that again.
Yep, down to the same place.
And then the plant gets weak, and you get more and more weeds and less good stuff.
So you're big on earthworms too. Do you guys import earthworms?
Huge. No.
Back in the 60s, did you?
No, earthworms are here. And we never planted a seed. Those things will stay viable and dormant in the soil for centuries.
Really?
Centuries. Right now, we're getting 4 or 5 times the county average production. We never bought a bag of chemical fertilizer or planted a seed, and this was so sparse in vegetation you could walk and never set foot on a piece of grass.
Because of the rotational grazing
and compost and all the things that we've done.
Until I got down on my hands and knees with him, I didn't really appreciate earthworms that essentially served as organic matter producers and aerators of the soil. Do with it when we get it.
No, we're not hunting for the earthworm, we're hunting for the hole.
How often do you do this?
This one we have visiting. There's the hole right there. See, I'm just sticking that's a hole right there. So that's where the worm went up and down. So when you get a downpour of rain, you get a thunder shower, these holes, all that water runs down those holes instead of running off. And that's why every 1% in organic matter holds an additional 20,000 gallons of water per acre. So we've gone from 1% to 8%. That's 7% organic matter increase in half a century, which means that we can now hold another 140,000 gallons of water per acre today. You can just take your finger, and then there's another hole there. But this is all earthworm castings.
And so if you don't have earthworms, your soil can't hold the nutrients or the water.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And remember, you know, the amazing thing about earthworms is that an earthworm takes in a pound of material, excretes a pound of material, but the pound of material it excretes has 3 times the calcium, 7 times the potassium, and 11 times the phosphorus of the original material. And nobody knows how they do it.
Unbelievable.
No, it's like alchemy. Nobody knows how they do it.
We walked on from there to a large chicken coop, which he calls the Eggmobile, that can hold as many as 500 laying chickens. That's a lot of eggs.
So as we start toward the Eggmobile, notice all these cow pats are all torn up and all the fly larvae have been eaten out of them.
He uses pretty standard egg-laying breeds and has no use for hybrids. The utility of this large mobile coop follows the same principle. It gets moved every day and follows behind where the cows have been so they can break apart the cow patties, eat the fly larvae and other insects while also working the soil.
So this has no containment. Yeah, this has no containment.
And
But these chickens are out here, you know, we don't have to give the cows a grubicide, wormers, any parasiticides. So basically this is the egret on the rhino's nose. This is the bird sanitizing behind the herbivore, which is one of the most foundational symbiotic relationships in nature, is the bird following the herbivore. So if these chickens never laid an egg, it'd still be worth it.
the eggs produced by these chickens are all for consumption, and eggs are collected daily by hand. We eventually went to see another unit that is for breeding and collecting fertilized eggs for incubating. Half will be pullets and half roosters. With pullets, they can continue to raise new hens for laying eggs and for breeding. We spent some time with his pigs, which operate under the same principle of grazing in paddocks and getting moved regularly for fresh ground and greens.
What I want you to appreciate is behind us. So that looked just like this about 60 days ago. And then you can see the regrowth. So you can actually walk through these paddocks almost and get a time warp. You know, it's like walking through a time machine to see the regrowth and the regeneration behind the pigs. Isn't this great? I mean, you know, and so this looked just like that a week ago.
Oh, goodness. Great thing.